Welcome to Perimenopause Health. This video is about supplements that are helpful during perimenopause. The first couple of supplements I'm going to cover are for the early to mid stages of perimenopause, which means to say they are the phases when you will get various symptoms, but they are not the later stages, which are to do with low estrogen levels before you go into full menopause. So the first one I'm going to cover is evening primrose oil. Evening primrose oil is a very, very helpful supplement for breast pain. Now, that's not the only thing it's good for. It's also good for very dry skin. But a lot of women seem confused about what evening primrose oil does. Can I just say it is not very useful for hot flushes or any of the later phase low estrogen symptoms that you will get. So please don't try and use it for that. In research experiments that have been done, they have found that evening primrose oil is nowhere near as good as things like the phytoestrogens in order to combat those symptoms of hot flushes, night sweats, and what have you. Evening primrose is very definitely only limited to helping breast pain. Things like black cohosh are much better for the later stage low estrogen symptoms. Now, when it comes to using evening primrose oil for breast pain, I would suggest you use quite a large amount. So that would be anything from 2,000 milligrams a day up to 4,000. So you can see these ones are 500 milligram capsules. So you would need to be taking quite a lot of those daily. I would suggest that you buy the 1,000 milligram capsules. They are quite big to swallow, but I've found those very helpful. For women who've got ovarian cysts and other problems like that, where you find the evening primrose oil is not enough to relieve your breast pain, what I suggest you do is add some iodine, and you can get that in the form of Lugol's iodine. In America, you can buy something called violet iodine, which is very helpful, but trying to get that in the UK, it's very expensive to import anything from the USA because we get hit with an import tax, the same as for getting things from Australia, which makes it really not viable for us to import products from you. So, evening primrose oil, that's great for breast pain. If it doesn't work for you, try adding some iodine. I'll just say about the iodine, don't do that if you have any problems with your thyroid, particularly hyperthyroid. Stick to the evening primrose oil, go and see your endocrinologist. Perhaps, with thyroid problems, just don't mess with supplements at all. The other supplement that's really useful for women at early to mid perimenopause is something called Agnus Castus Vitex, otherwise known as chaste tree or monk's pepper. There's a variety of different names for it. It's been very well researched for PMDD, PMS, those premenopausal symptoms of irritability and moods. It's very good for that. Just like evening primrose oil, you'll need to take it every day of your cycle. The usual dose is 2 capsules daily, but obviously check on the label of your particular bottle that that's what it says. I don't recommend that you take the tincture, even though that's another product that I see sold. It will get very expensive to do it that way, but also the dosing is not so consistent. With the actual dried herb, it tends to be quite consistent. So that's why I'd advise you to use that. The other symptoms that it's really good for, you might notice that you experience spotting, which is a little bit of blood that just enough to stain your underwear. When you think of spotting, most people would think of like some spots of bright red blood. Actually, it's usually brownish or something like that. And sometimes it will come out after you've been for a wee. And so you'll see it on the toilet paper. And for me, Agnus Castus Vitex got rid of all that. So it's a herb that I really can't be without. When I have gone without it, I've spotted for 6 or 7 days before my periods really started properly, and it's just a bit of a nuisance. So Vitex is also supposed to help with your fertility. If you're still trying to conceive, that might be a good thing for you to take. If you're going to use it and you're not using any contraception, then you might want to think about whether you need some. The other thing that you should think is if you're taking something like a Mirena, you're using a Mirena, you're on Depo-Provera or the mini pill, don't take Agnus Castus Vitex because it is a herb that basically has a progestogenic action, but only a very mild one. So I don't think it is going to give you the same type of mood problems that you might experience with taking a strong progesterone in a tablet format or that kind of thing. But there's no point in taking it if you're already taking that kind of medicine. So you might find it causes more problems than it solves if you're already taking some kind of other form of progesterone. I wouldn't suggest it in those circumstances. Now, moving on to the supplements for the later stages of perimenopause, in the years before you finally go into menopause, when you find that you're getting hot flashes, night sweats, hormonal insomnia, and that type of symptom, then really what you're going to want is something called a phytoestrogen. And those herbs and supplements are what we're going to cover next. Now, a warning that I will give you is this. If your periods haven't stopped yet, if you start using these particular supplements, you might notice that your periods get a bit heavier or they become closer together, more frequent, your cycle gets shorter. This is because these are estrogenic. They're not strongly estrogenic, but they are all the same estrogenic. So if it is too soon for you, you could do what I will suggest now. Most women who notice they have these low estrogen symptoms earlier in their perimenopause will find that they cluster around periods and ovulation. So you might find that a couple of days before your period begins, that you have hot flashes and other sort of low estrogen symptoms, maybe headaches and that kind of thing. So what you can do while you're on your period is just take these for a few days. They are not a supplement that you have to take every single day of your cycle. So what I would recommend, if your periods are still fairly regular, is that you limit yourself to taking these for a maximum of 7 days of your 28-day cycle, and no more than that. Otherwise, you're going to notice some knock-on effects. However, if you are in that later stage where you're starting to skip periods, then you can begin taking these every day. You may notice that your periods go back to being a 28-day cycle or something like that, and that probably is the cohort, but you have to strike a balance between relieving your symptoms and perhaps having a slightly heavier bleed or having your periods go back to being a bit more regular. You can't really win in that respect. So black cohosh is the first phytoestrogen that I'll discuss because it is the one that is most commonly found in the blends of different herbs that you get under the names of estroven and menopause and that kind of thing. This is a typical ingredient of them. And what you do have to do is make sure you're not taking too many a day. Women do come to the group and they leave messages that say, oh, you shouldn't take black cohosh, it's dangerous, it's bad for your liver. Well, actually, I did go and look into that. And what I found was that there had been studies that showed this, but they were not very good studies at all. They found a maximum of about 80 reports of liver damage worldwide. They had not looked into if there was anything else that could have caused the liver problems in these women. They weren't even sure exactly what the liver damage was. So it really wasn't a very good study. And, I would like to discount it entirely. I think it is safe to use, but just for safety's sake, I will say stick with the dosage that it says on the package. And when you're looking at strength, it's very difficult to go by whether it says 100 milligrams or 545 milligrams on the pack, because the strength of the product relates to something called triterpenes, which you'll notice on the label here. 5% triterpene, you could have 100 milligrams and 5% triterpene, or 100 milligrams and 1% triterpene. That percentage is telling you the strength of the product. and that's more important to pay attention to than the actual 100 milligrams, 6.5 milligrams, or 545 or whatever. So just stick to what it suggests on the packaging for you. Black cohosh does have a very good reputation at relieving hot flashes and night sweats, and if you're having insomnia, it will help you to sleep. You might need to add more things to it, in which case our old friend soya isoflavones are extremely helpful. Now, so far, one thing I would like to emphasize is I'm not recommending any of these particular brands apart from this one. Simply Supplements are a British company. They're really good. So if you're in the UK, their products may seem a bit expensive. This particular soya isoflavone product is very high strength, 5,000 milligrams in one pill. Now with soya, it's very safe. Obviously, don't use it if you have any sort of an allergy to soy. But soya is very, very safe. There've been a lot of bad publicity around soy, which it doesn't really deserve, saying that it's not safe for women who've had breast cancer, or who might be at risk of developing it through their family history, etc. That's not actually true. There have never been any studies that show that, in fact. All this is a concern because they are a phytoestrogen, that it might actually cause that. So what they're saying is they don't know if it's a risk or not, and to avoid it in case it might be. So they don't actually know. But of course, in many minds, that has translated into, oh, it's dangerous and it must be avoided. But no, that really isn't the case. They're actually very, very safe. And because soya is a dietary food item, it's a food supplement, you can pretty much take as much as you want until you relieve your symptoms. So it's much more helpful in that respect than cohosh, which has a daily limit in case of liver problems. Soya you can take as much as you like. And maca, that we're coming on to next, is very similar to that. So I think this is a really good one to take, and I've taken it and it has helped a little to relieve my migraines. Unfortunately, what happens with me is if I take them and I manage to avoid my migraines, I just postpone them until I stop taking the soy, and then I get them. I'm not at the phase yet where I can take them all month round. So we'll just have to wait and see if they help it in the longer run later on. Anyhow, one of the things that I have seen lately is some research with regard to the breast cancer problem, that women who took soya or included soya in their diets actually had a lower recurrence of breast cancer than women who didn't. So it may be that introducing phytoestrogens blocks your estrogen receptors to your own estrogen or environmental estrogens. And so it actually is a good thing for preventing occurrences of cancer. But if you are in a high risk group, then by all means, don't take it if it makes you feel uncomfortable. There are other options for you. In fact, there are medical options. Maca root is another phytoestrogen. It's very similar to the soy in terms of you can take as much as you need until you feel that your symptoms are resolved. There are various different doses of maca you can get. I'm not particularly recommending this brand. It just gives you an example of what to look for. As I said, because it is a food stuff, you can buy the loose powder, you can make smoothies out of it. I mean, I won't particularly want to do that. I can't imagine it tastes any good. I never do very well with trying to include things in my diet, to be honest, especially if I don't really like the taste. So you can buy it conveniently in these capsules, and you can pretty much take as much as you want. It may say have a suggested dose on the packaging, but you can exceed that quite safely if you want to, in the same way as the soy. This is one that's not quite as popular as the others. It's called Motherwort, and you can buy it in capsules if you want to. But if you're into herbalism at all, you can make yourself motherwort tea. And oat straw is another alternative to this, which is very similar. And red clover, that we're coming on to. Again, you can buy dried red clover leaf They're actually flowers, actually, that you get the red clover as. They're flowers when you buy the dried product loose like this. So you can make infusions and teas. Follow Susan Weed. She's got videos all over YouTube if you want to learn how to make a herbal infusion. It's very, very simple to do. And buying the actual leaf is usually a bit cheaper than buying the capsules, so that's a winner for you. Motherwort's very good for your heart, apparently, as well. So moving on to red clover, I'm not aware that there are any limits on the dosage for this. Motherwort, I'm not so sure of either. It's just another alternative that you've got if you don't particularly like the cohosh idea because of you think it's bad for your liver, you don't like soy because you have an allergy to it. Red clover is a very good phytoestrogen, and it will really help you with hot flushes and those sort of symptoms. And what you can do, some women find that over time a particular supplement will become less effective for them. So you could easily cycle through all these different phytoestrogens. You could use one for a couple of months and then switch to another so you don't develop any tolerance to it. Or you could combine them. You could take one red clover, one maca, one black cohosh a day. The other thing that I would advise you to do if you have symptoms overnight is to take a dose of these an hour before bedtime and see if that helps you. We have a different video on insomnia, and you will see from that hormonal insomnia is a problem in the later phases of perimenopause. So you can try taking these supplements just before bed, and you might find that you still need to take some valerian or some Benadryl or something in order that you can get a really thorough and good night's sleep. But that's basically a run through of the supplements that will help you. I really think it's beneficial to buy the individual items rather than buy one of these products like estrogen or menopause, or don't even start me on Amberon. It's such a terrible product. It's mainly just vitamins. You have more control over what you're doing. If you buy the individual ingredients, you know what you're taking, you know how much of it you're taking every day. And I think really it's cheaper. If you buy a product like this one, for example, you're getting 120 tablets. That's a 3-month supply. I think it works out very, very economic as well. Okay, that's the end of this video. If you like the channel and you found the information useful, do subscribe, do recommend to your perimenopausal friends. Bye.